Can one event change your perspective in life? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I remember very clearly that Sunday morning. It was 1:30 a.m. in the city of Los Angeles, in the city of angels. I was on my way home from work when I noticed in my rearview mirror a car speeding up towards me. And so I switched over to the right lane. I allowed it to pass. When it passed, I noticed that it was swerving and swaying. It was a white Toyota Camry. I didn't think too much of it. Maybe another drunk going home from a Christmas Eve party. And so I gave it some space. I reduced speed, and then there was a screech. I slammed on my brakes when I saw their brake lights. And then a man in a hoodie jumped out from the passenger side. He raised up his hands. My gut told me, drive. And so I drove off. And I was wondering, what was that all about? And then several seconds later, bam! I was rear-ended. And I quickly pulled over to the shoulder. And the car that was behind me did the same. At that point, I realized it was the same white Camry that was swerving on the road. Something told me that this wasn't right. I had very little time to think. What do I do in this situation? Do I stop or do I go? I had to make a quick decision, and so I sped off, only to be chased by that same vehicle. I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? I need to report a hit and run, and I'm being chased at the moment. And so I explained the whole situation and what happened. But when the tone of the dispatcher's voice, they acted like they didn't believe me. It was giving me an attitude. Wait, are you saying that you were in an accident or someone hit you and you didn't pull over, or you guys didn't exchange information? You guys need to pull over, exchange each other information. And we was going back at it, back and forth, until I finally complied, believing that maybe I was a little paranoid. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep inside of me, I was telling myself, maybe this isn't the best idea. But I didn't listen to myself. And so I got off on the next off-ramp, with dispatcher, of course, on the other line, knowing my exact moves. I slowed down, and I pulled over to the shoulder. The Toyota Camry did the same. But instead of pulling right behind me, they pulled up right in front of me, which I thought was really odd. And so I sat there, waiting. My passenger windows was rolled down. My gear was still on drive. My foot was on the pedal. My stomach was turning. My hands were shaking, and my heart was pounding uncontrollably. And then the man with the hoodie jumped out of the passenger side. He raced over to my window, and he pulled out a gun and stuck it straight in my face. And he demanded, "Get the F out of the car." Everything happened so fast at this moment. But it was as if time slowed down and almost froze. At this point, I was staring at the barrel of a silencer. that only meant one thing for me. I was going to die. At this moment, right now, today, here. What would you do if you had a gun pointed in your face? And so I did what everyone else wouldn't do. I stepped on the gas pedal. The tires screeched. I screamed. He fired, but by that time, my car was already in motion. And then several seconds later, bam! The only thing that I remembered at that moment was the windshield shattering. My body going forward, the airbags deploying, and then I went hard backwards. I probably lost consciousness at that time. There was a loud humming in my ears. Everything was blurry. I couldn't focus. I hit a light pole at full speed. Now, in the midst of all that chaos, all the noise, I was fading in and out of consciousness. And then I heard a car stop by mine. I couldn't move. It wasn't help. It was them. This was it. They wouldn't stop. It was the same man with the same gun pointing at me. This was how it was going to end. The only thing that I could think of at that moment were my kids. I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. I testified to the oneness of God, thinking that that was my last words. And then I closed my eyes. And then, bang! I was born June 18th, 1980.
It's my birthday.
I died December 25th, 2017. I saw my life being replayed from the time it began to the time it ended. I saw my kids. They were crying. They couldn't see me. This was not how I wanted it to end. This was not how I wanted it to be remembered. I just wanted to say goodbye. I was begging. I wanted to make a difference. Please. And then, bang! I was now grasping for breath. I realized they were trying to break the window with their pistol. Bang! Bang! I gained full consciousness. At this time, my instinct kicked in. The only thing I could think of was to yell at the top of my lungs and hit that horn. Beep! By that time, passers-by started stopping by to see what was actually going on. And then the robbers quickly left. I lay there motionless. I was bleeding from the impact of the collision. I was crying at the sight of my own death. But I was smiling, being grateful that I was given a second chance. But I still haven't forgotten my promise to make a difference in exchange for one last goodbye. And in the distance, I heard the siren's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, what life cannot teach, death will. If you were to know when and how you would be taking your last breath, would you live differently? There is no choice in dying. There's choices in living. How do you want to be remembered? Will you give more than what you have taken? Will you leave this world in a better place than the way that you found it? You only have one life to live. So how will you live? And